This is chapter Imperialism Causes. Imperialism is one of the reasons for World War I having happened. So essentially, if imperialism hadn't happened, World War I wouldn't have happened. So let's see. Okay. In one word, what causes imperialism? Whee. Here are 5 motives. Economic, exploration, ethnocentric, political, and religious. I've got the power. What causes imperialism? In a word, power. Boom. Well, there it is. Sometimes I make these readings too easy, I think. Governments and companies were attempting to blank profits. Imperialism is a process by which one country dominates another directly, by political means, or indirectly by economic means, in order to steal its wealth. Motives are reasons for doing something. There are 5 categories that we can organize the causes and motives of imperialism into. Alright, so economic. Governments and companies were attempting to increase profits. Now, we skipped over the Industrial Revolution because we do not have time. But basically what happened is you ended up having a lot of technology that came out. You had a lot of people moving to the cities. And so Europe was manufacturing stuff like crazy. They were making, instead of sewing shirts like one at a time, they were making them in factories. They were starting to have an assembly line for cars. And cars came out and all kinds of other stuff. So they were essentially, they need more resources. But they had the jobs, they had the demand, they needed the supplies. All right, so increase. The Industrial Revolution increased the ability to have cheap labor, control markets, and have access to natural resources, and precious metals, and land. New colonies also wanted to make profits to become successful. Imperial merchants created trading posts and warehouses. This created a stopping point where traders stopped to buy and sell things they purchased. It should be past tense, and carried along the way. Some of these trading posts cut travel time, so it was beneficial for people to make these stops. So they just kind of had, especially here, so trading posts along the way, trading posts in years. So if you were traveling, it was almost like stopping at the gas station. Like, you were going there, picking some stuff up, except for you're going to carry it with you and then sell it later somewhere else. Exploration would bring them blank on a national and personal level. All right, so this is the next motive. Many countries were motivated by exploring territories that were unknown. Sometimes they did this for medical or scientific research. Sometimes they did this simply for a sense of adventure. Imperial explorers sought to discover, map, and claim territory before their competitors did. This would bring them glory on a national and personal level. Explorers were the rock stars of their time. This is especially true for people who, some of these explorers were not very rich. So by going out, making a name for themselves, they get notoriety, money, and they become rich. Blank means to have the belief that one race or nation is superior to others. Ethnocentric. Some countries believe their cultures, values, and beliefs were better than other countries. They wanted to teach the people they believed were inferior or of less value to them. This made them feel like they were helping people. But this motivation came from a place of arrogance. They believed they were better than other people, and they would cling to racist beliefs. They argued that they were civilizing these inferior people, but really they just wanted to feel superior themselves. Ethnocentric means to have the belief that one race or nation is superior to others. Also includes stereotyping other nations and not understanding other nations. So they were like, we must go out and civilize these savages, while not taking into account like their cultures, and they're just like, oh, they're not as advanced, and that's just plain dumb. So and they're gonna wipe out cultures this way big time. All right, so why Africa? It was Africa and Asia pretty much. Hang on, are there any more that go with? Let me finish reading this. All right, political. And here you can see why people went to certain places. So I guess this is atmosphere is nice and civilization. Civil wars are happening here, so that's a good time. Oil is in here, agriculture and plants, gold down here. Yes, horses and kangaroos, industries. When it says football players, it means soccer players, not like American football, but like like football. Like the way every other country on the planet what they would call football. All right, and this gets you power, fame, glory, blah blah blah. All right. Patriotic nationalism made countries want to compete with each other. It was the equivalent to winning the Super Bowl. The more countries they conquered, the greater their win. The countries wanted strategic territory, so they wanted specific territory that would give their navies and armies access around the world. Some lands were better than others to conquer. Political motives were usually triggered by other countries. Some countries would try to go on the offensive by getting more lands and putting themselves in a better position. Some would get land to be on the defensive. Either way, getting more lands was seen as a way to be a better country. So they were trying to get more of Africa, and if, like, let's say Spain got this side right here, kind of this corner or whatever, and Portugal got this, there was this land in between that they needed to get so that Spain didn't get too close to Portugal, Portugal didn't get too close to Spain, essentially. Ugh. Religious. During imperial expansion, religious people saw it as an opportunity to convert new people to their religion. They followed explorers and conquerors to help convert natives. By doing this, they strengthened their religion. Christian missionaries were well known for this. Along with their religion, they spread Western cultural values and languages. This is why, too, you'll see in Africa, if you were to talk to somebody from there, they might speak French in I forgot what the actual dialect is in South Africa. But it's almost like there's a mixture of the languages. So there will be European languages mixed into their languages, or, I mean, their language may have been completely wiped out on a large scale. And so it might be a very like small dialect that is in like tribes and stuff like that, or specific areas. I mean, honestly though too, like even if I go to Germany, like if you go to the north of Germany and you hear somebody talking, it's going to be completely different than in the south. And it's the same thing too in America, right? If somebody's talking like, you know, if somebody's from like New York or New Jersey versus Georgia or Louisiana, like it's completely sounds different. All right. Imperialism is connected strongly to capitalism. Remember that? While later imperialism was impacted by socialist and communist countries, early imperialism was motivated by profits of capitalism. There was not much regulation, and it was all about the money. Gaining territory meant gaining resources that provided money. The people of the land had to pay European countries. The European countries would take resources and turn them into profits. Yeah, and so this is kind of like a meme for it. So don't worry, Africa will go away when we finish, and it's just taking all the resources out. All right, so now number 5. According to the map, what could be stereotypically found in the southern part of Africa? So we got the north, we got the west, the east, and oh, look, down here. What is that? That looks like gold right there. It says it. So, gold. All right. Question 6. So we got some animals. Each of these animals, if you look carefully, they have a country kind of written on them. Some don't really. So we've got this dragon, and that's China. This is a double-headed eagle. That's going to be Austria-Hungary, and that's why it has 2 heads, because Austria, Hungary put together. The leopard is Japan, the bear is Russia, United States is back here. Germany is right here. So we've got the bald eagle, then we've got the black eagle. This guy is actually going to be Britain. I do believe the wolf is Italy and the rooster is France. I don't know why their national bird is a rooster of all things, but alright, which country was being fought over in the cartoon with the animals? Well, there's only one that's dead, and that is China. So they are fighting over China. The 2 big continents that were fought over during imperialism were Africa and Asia, parts of Asia, so China was a big part. All right. According to the video, ships allowed them to travel faster and farther. Blank ships. Okay.
What is imperialism, and why did it happen? By the end of this presentation, you should be able to answer both of these questions. First, let's define imperialism. Imperialism occurs when an industrialized nation takes control of other nations' lands and territories for economic or political gain. Money and power are the 2 biggest reasons for the growth of imperialism. But what made it possible? Industrialized nations had factories and machinery that could produce weapons, giving them a military advantage, allowing them to conquer and control a large population of people in a foreign land. The wealth these countries had allowed them to pay for large armies to go out and conquer and control other nations, putting them under their control. Steamships allowed
Steamships. According to the video, once you added all the colonies together, the industrialized nation now had an
Industrialized nations travel farther and faster, carrying large amounts of cargo and troops. New medicines made it easier to treat diseases found in foreign lands. The telegraph.
That was a big thing, actually, this disease thing, because one of the big issues was when Europeans would try to go into Africa, they would, like, die very quickly. So they had to stay on the outside of it, essentially, because they could not survive the diseases. And one of the big ones was malaria, and they came out with a medicine called quinine, and it kind of took away the side effects, essentially, of it. And basically, even now, if you haven't been to Africa and you go to Africa, you need like 6 different vaccines to make sure that you don't like die along the way. All right, let me read the question again. I was waiting for it because add the colonies together. Okay.
Increased communication and railroads united large areas of land, making the movement of goods and people faster and cheaper. These modern weapons and advantages will make conquering native peoples in places like Africa and Asia relatively easy. Because these lands and people never industrialized, they were at a huge disadvantage. When lands were conquered, they became colonies. Add all the colonies together, and an industrialized nation now has an empire.
All right, so empire. Empire. All right. According to the video, India was colonized by the. Hang on. How many more we got? All right. Sorry. India was colonized by the who? Let's see.
It was the job of these colonies to produce resources and wealth for the other countries. The colonies also supplied cheap labor as a new market to buy manufactured goods. For example, India was colonized by the British. India had lots of resources and a population of over 300 million people. The British would take a resource like cotton, ship it from India to England where the cotton would be made into textiles.
All right, so Britain. This was a big deal. We are going to come back to this because we will be going over a guy named Gandhi, who had a big impact on getting the British to leave India. The other thing that got people to leave India was the World Wars. That's actually probably more of the reason than one as much. According to the video, blank was the belief that your nation or people was superior to all other nations and people. Industrialization, nationalism, modernization, or imperialism. Okay.
The finished textiles would be sent back to India and sold to the Indian people. The British could also ship and sell their...
And so this is kind of ridiculous, right? So you've got this stuff, it gets sent to Europe, made into clothing, and then gets sent back to India to be sold back to the people. So they are essentially paying for their own stuff. And of course, they didn't have like the machinery really to be able to do this here because they weren't industrialized yet. So, but that was the like ridiculousness of it. So they could have made it there, and they could have sold it to the British, essentially. That's too why we get clothing, like you'll see it from China, Taiwan, Vietnam, wherever, right? Essentially, they've industrialized. They're kind of in their industrial revolution, really. And that's also why they still have like cheap labor. And so now they can kind of cut out what would have been the middleman, and that is Europe.
Goods to other colonies in Southeast Asia, the Pacific, and Africa, generating huge profits for England. Since England is getting the raw material basically for free and selling it around the globe, they're going to generate huge profit. England passed laws stopping India from making their own textiles or buying them from any other nation. This relationship was good for the British, but terrible for the Indian people. Competition with other industrialized nations also motivated Europeans to go out and seek more resources. If your neighbor was doing it, that meant you had to do it too. Unless, of course, you wanted them to become more wealthy and more powerful than you. Competition amongst the other industrialized nations of Europe drives imperialism, and unfortunately, underdeveloped places like in Africa and Asia will suffer the consequences. That leads to the next reason for imperialism, called nationalism. Nationalism.
All right. So nationalism is like patriotism on steroids, basically. So it's like 4th of July every day. Every day. You're just like, we're so great. We're better than everybody. Our country is awesome. And you guys suck. According to the video, by 1914, Europeans took control of over a blank percent of Africa. We got 70, 100, 90, 80.
Was believed that your nation or people were superior to all the nations and people. The best way to prove this was to have the most of everything and the biggest empire. A nation's wealth and empire were status symbols. The more you had, the greater you were. Europeans also believed that they were a superior race, choosing to spread their knowledge and culture around the world and to civilize less developed people.
They straight up, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, so they would make these super racist images, and they're like, oh, look at us, look at this, our skull, this is their skull, this is this skull, which is essentially a load of crap, because these skulls don't look this dramatic. They actually pretty much look exactly the same.
In other parts of the world, this belief was known as social Darwinism. Spreading Christianity was also another reason for imperialism. European Christians wanted to convert foreign people to Christianity and justified conquering these people in order to save their souls. By 1914, European nations had colonized over 90% of Africa.
90%? That's bananas. 90%. Craziness. You guys can submit that while I let the rest of this run.
They forced their language and religion on the native people, took away.
So here you can see who got what. The British and French got most of it, I would say.
All of their traditional governments redrew political boundaries, promoted ethnic and tribal conflicts, used forced labor of native people, took their resources, and caused famine and disease for millions of native African people.
Oh, so hang on, let me actually go back a second. So this is what I was talking about. So you see French West Africa. In this area, you definitely will hear people speaking French or a dialect of French.
Famine and disease killing millions of native African people. The most notorious actions took place in the Belgian Congo. In 1876, King Leopold II of Belgium claimed the area of the Congo as his own personal colony. The main resource found in the Congo was rubber, a new product in high demand and therefore very valuable. Leopold forced millions of Congolese people to work day and night, gathering rubber seeds.
Whoa!
Anyone who failed to meet the rubber quota. Others were whipped and beaten to death. Villages were raided, women and children were raped and killed, and millions died of malnutrition and starvation because they were not able to tend to their crops. No one knows for sure, but it's estimated between 10 and 20 million people died in the Congo during Leopold's rule, which lasted until the colony was taken by the Belgian government in 1908. Other European nations continued to control colonies in Africa, Asia, Southeast Asia, the West Indies, the South Pacific, and the Caribbean. Great Britain and France and Germany will emerge as the top three European powers, and they will continue to try expanding their power all the way until the start of World War I. So, in conclusion, the biggest motivator for imperialism was economics, followed by national pride, competition with the nations, racism, and religion. Imperialism changed the world. Our question is, what impact will this have on the native people of these colonized places?
It is going to suck for them. Their cultures are going to be permanently affected. They will be permanently affected once the world wars roll around and the people leave, Europe leaves. They're going to leave behind essentially all kinds of junk. That some of the Africans will not have the ability to use. This actually happened pretty big in India with trains and stuff like that. I mean, they're going to catch up. Like, you're not going to go. Like, if you go there now, you're not going to find just desert and a bunch of tribes. Like, there are cities there, right? So that's going to be an issue. They are going to have, like, language stuff. That's going to impact it. South Africa we'll talk about later on, because that's going to be super affected. So basically, things like that. All right, and that is this one.